Prisoners of the Lost Universe is a 1983 British fantasy film directed by Terry Marcel and co-produced by Harry Robertson, starring Richard Hatch, Kay Lenz, and John Saxon. It's a feature-length emulation of the adventure serials that used to play between double features, with a modern twist. Outside of Los Angeles, a TV reporter is en route to her latest assignment when she has a car accident with a surly handyman who dabbles in karate. She makes it to her appointment with a scientist that's created a portal that pulls them into another world. Before the three can return home, they must reunite across a land of dangers and face a warlord intent on ruling over all. Prisoners of the Lost Universe is a contribution to the pulp action revival subgenre. High adventure tales like the ones found in the first half of the 20th century in dime store novels, comic strips, and movie serials. Whether reviving classic properties or offering original characters in tribute, the subgenre attempted to give a modern shine to the tales and characters that would be the building blocks of today's fantasy and superhero epics. Terry Marcel made his trade as an assistant director in the 70s, working on everything from lowbrow comedy to acclaimed dramas and everything in between. Harry Robertson first made his mark as a chart-topping band leader and arranger in the 50s and 60s. Hammer Films hired him to write the theme music for their entry into television, the 1968 anthology series Journey to the Unknown, and would later commission him to write musical scores for several Hammer films, including Terry Marcel's first two features as a full-fledged director. Bonding over their love of sword and sorcery tales, Marcel and Robertson co-wrote a screenplay and started their own production company. Their first film, Hawk the Slayer, mashed up elements from all of the stories that inspired them growing up. Hawk the Slayer failed to hit its mark at the UK box office, but is today considered a UK cult classic. Perhaps because it was cheaper, Prisoners was filmed in South Africa, with the savings invested in casting Hollywood actors. Dan the Handyman was played by Richard Hatch, a regular presence on American TV screens, although his most iconic role only lasted a season as Captain Apollo on Battlestar Galactica. Carrie the Reporter was portrayed by Kay Lenz. She was another TV regular who was nominated for an Emmy for her role in the ABC miniseries Rich Man, Poor Man. The warlord Creel was played by John Saxon, a charming tough guy, whether fighting for the good guys or the bad. He teamed up with Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon and would encounter Freddy Krueger many times in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Compared to Hawk the Slayer, Prisoners of the Lost Universe is a sillier movie. The sex and violence is on par with Hercules and Xena episodes, as in perfectly alright for afternoon TV, with an occasional four-letter word requiring a censor. The plot takes longer to warm up. The first decent fight scene starts around 55 minutes, delayed by attempts at world building and the kind of comedic tone that these pulp revivals always try for. At least the music sounds epic, while the sound effects are something else. But most of all, this movie is cheap. Almost no special effects to speak of, just a double exposure for the teleporting effect and the most basic makeup and costumes. It feels like it was filmed with a LARPing group cosplaying in the park. And yet, that's kind of the charm of it. Too many pulp revival movies resort to mocking their own stories, as if it's their only way to connect with a modern audience. Compare that to Saxon's warlord character. He commits to the role of a despot in the making, who craves and recognizes power in all forms. He's a recognizable kind of evil, yet completely at home in this fantastical setting. Prisoners had a theatrical release internationally, but went direct to cable in the US on the Showtime network. Marcel and Robertson's final collaboration was Jane and the Lost City, a more overt entry into the pulp adventure revival subgenre, based on a British 1940s comic strip. It also failed to cross the pond. Robertson moved on to producing TV series, and retired about the time his wife became a baroness. Marcel is kept busy directing for several British TV shows, and even participated in a Kickstarter campaign to fund a prequel to Hawk the Slayer. Although this is a British production, there are no Doctor Who actors in this cast, but Peter O'Farrell, who played Malachi the Thief, did appear in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Even without the TV veterans, Prisoners of the Lost Universe looks like a TV movie knockoff of a big-screen fantasy film, but a faithful knockoff. It's good enough for folding laundry to, but not so good that you can't talk through it. You can do like many folks have and laugh along with it. This movie's got its fans on the internet for exactly that reason. And beyond the obvious flaws, the earnest adventure tale shines through. It might even spark your nostalgia for unseen lands as well.